Playing through Tony Hawk 1 and 2 Remastered has been a very surreal experience. I went in simply thinking I was going to be getting a graphical update to two of my favorite video games of all time. Instead, what I got was a reimagining of those two games. A reimagining that fucking floored me. I made a video about 2 months ago on this same channel talking about my nostalgic feelings for these two games, and also how excited I was for the remastering of these games. And I said in that video, and it still stands to this point, that I have never met a single person in my age range who hasn't played a Tony Hawk game, least of all these two. So if for some reason you're watching this video and you've never played a Tony Hawk game in your life, you are missing out. The good news is this most recent game is a really good jumping on point for the franchise, and honestly, I think this remaster is better than the original two games. The Tony Hawk series has always been very simple and direct, especially in these first two games, and thankfully it's the same in the remaster. You pick a skater, you go to a level, and you do a myriad of different objectives ranging from collecting different objects to getting a high score on that level. All the while, you're getting crazy combos, learning new tricks, and just generally having fun. The remaster also adds in a bunch of different challenges for each individual skater that you can complete to get new outfits or new boards. There's also stat points scattered around each level that if you pick up can help you improve the skater of your choice. After you've completed the single player, you can always go back to these levels in the speedrun mode, which is where you have all the same objectives as you do in the regular single player, but with a timer added to it. And you can see how quickly you can complete each level. It's pretty fucking fun. On top of this super fun single player, you have a really in-depth and robust creative park section, where you can create your own skate parks from scratch. The tools that you have are insane, and allow you to make some really cool environments. I mean, look at this. You can take a quarter pipe, you can make it all wiggly, you can take a square, put a hole in it, you can even put dirt inside of the stairs. Like, why do you need to do that? I don't know, but you can do it. It's pretty fucking cool. There's also online multiplayer and split screen for this game with a bunch of different mini games you can play, which are all really fun. Maybe not that in-depth and maybe not that competitive, but they're fun. They're a good time waster. And that's it. That's the whole game. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Get home safely, you guys. In all seriousness, I think the biggest problem this game has is its lack of content. The content that it has is super replayable, and it is incredibly true to the original two games, but at the end of the day, compared to most AAA games out there right now, it really doesn't stack up. I mean, you can beat the single-player story in about an hour and a half. Of course, the fun of Tony Hawk comes from getting high scores and perfecting your style of play, but for people who are more objective-oriented, I don't think this game is going to satisfy you. I guess we should probably get some of the gripes I have with this game out of the way. There are not many flaws in this game, but there are quite a few oversights. There's no multiplayer free skate, you can't make gaps in Creative Park, even though I swear to God they had this in some of the other earlier games. Some of these menu icons and things on the HUD just straight up lie to you. Like this thing at the bottom left says, rotate your board. I'm in the stats screen, bro. There's no fucking board here. When you go to collect your challenge rewards, you can't just hold down the button and collect all of them. You have to manually press the button for each one. When you buy clothes from the shop, you can't immediately put them on. You have to buy them, go back to your skater, then equip them. Also, competitions make no sense because there's no one judging them. There's no one here at all. There's even spots for spectators, but no one's here. The only people I've managed to find are on Venice, but something's not right with them. They just stand there, observing, biding their time. Finally, they brought back most of the tracks from the original two games and brought in some new ones. But the new songs they put in here, they're not good. Thankfully, you can turn them off in the sound settings, but still. Who the fuck are Pecu? Who's Chick Norris? Who the fuck are these people? Of course, none of these things ruin the game, but it's just really frustrating and surprising that these small things weren't ironed out before the game's release. And they can always just patch these things out later, so, it's not that big of a deal. Which brings us to our main point. What about this remaster makes it better than the original two? Well, the most obvious answer is graphics. The old game looks incredibly dated by our standards nowadays. It would have been acceptable just to take these old levels and give them some new graphics, but what the team over at Vicarious Visions have done is completely redesign the feel of these levels. Yes, the layouts of these levels are all the same, the secret tapes are in the same spots, the skate letters are in the same spots, the gaps are in the same spots, but these don't look like the same levels. Their atmospheres are completely different. The vibe each level gives off is different. The amount of attention to detail to these incredibly minuscule things that you won't even notice your first time around, like this cat on Warehouse, is just shocking. I mean, look, here's the mall, okay? Here's the mall in the original game. Here it is in the remaster. In the original game, the mall was a very basic downhill course with not a lot to look at, outside of some bits of architecture. Now, it's this incredibly detailed, post-apocalyptic, abandoned mall that's been taken over by skaters, and they've put up mannequins as stand-ins for a crowd. Like, what? These are not the same levels. I mean, they are, but they're not. Look at Burnside. Here's Burnside in the original. Here's Burnside in the remaster. What the fuck? Look at this shit. Look at the thunderstorms off in the distance. Look at this actual real-life plaque depicting the rules of Burnside. They didn't need to put this in. They could have just put in like a JPEG, but no, they actually modeled it to how it looks in real life. Finally, let's look at New York. Here it is in the original. And holy shit, here it is in the remaster. In the original, the entire map was covered in Superman 64 fog, but look at it now! Look at it! Look at this shit! This is not the same level! I mean, it is, but it's just better. It's just better in every way. I've never geeked out this much about a video game's level design, but it's so hard not to be impressed with this game. I think the only level that has a serious step backwards because of this redesign is the hangar. In the original game, the hangar felt like somewhere we were breaking into, somewhere we're not supposed to be. In the remaster, there's like posters of Tony Hawk video games. Okay, and like there's like a neon plane aerodynamic room. What the fuck is going on here? But getting a new coat of paint isn't the only reason that I feel this game is better than the original. The gameplay is better. So before, there were hardware limitations to what each console could do. Once again, the 30 frames per second, the Superman 64 draw distance fog, that kind of stuff. With all that stuff gone, the game's a lot less crusty. It feels a lot better to play. But Vicarious Visions made another really smart decision. That's a nice rhyme. I was a poet and I didn't motherfucking know it, bitch. Let's go. They made another good decision by taking some of the gameplay aspects from more recent Tony Hawks and putting them back in this one. Reverts, wall plants, flat ground tricks, none of these were in the original two games, and yet their inclusion into this one feels natural. At least in my opinion. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that these levels weren't designed for this movement style or the ability to do wall plants or reverts, but I think that I would rather live in a world where there are some levels that are just really awkward and exploitable and still have reverts than live in a world with no reverts. When you take these better graphics and the more refined gameplay and add together, it doesn't feel like I'm playing Tony Hawk 1 and 2, it feels like I'm playing a reimagining of those games. A sort of higher potential that was always there and is now finally being reached. I don't want to make it seem like I'm shitting on the first original two games, because I'm not. They're two of the most important video games in history, and two of the most iconic American video games ever made. But now that this game's been released, I really don't see myself digging up the old Nintendo 64 to play these two games anytime soon. Another reason for that is that I feel like this is the first Tony Hawk game I can appreciate as a game. When you're a kid, you don't realize all the subtle nuances in gameplay and all the hard work put into some of your favorite games. But when you grow up and play some of your favorite games from your childhood, there's so much nostalgia already baked into it that you look past a lot of the flaws that the game has. With the remaster, I feel like I'm getting a fresh perspective on Tony Hawk games, while at the same time appreciating how far we've come. My only hope moving forward is that we keep getting more Tony Hawk games like this. The remaster proves this old franchise still has a ton of potential. All that's left now is to reach it.